Growing up, my sister Lindsay always had this incredible talent for making people feel small without saying much. It was in the way she tilted her head. The way her smile never quite reached her eyes. The way she said, "That's cute," like she was patting your head and handing you a participation trophy. So when I told her I'd opened an Etsy shop, I knew the "that's cute" was coming. I just didn't expect it to sting as much as it did. "Oh," she said, drawing out the word like it was a surprise I knew how to use a computer. "You're selling, what, little bracelets or something?" She let out a short laugh and glanced at our mom. "Mom, did you hear that? Rachel's going to be the next Jeff Bezos. But, you know, for glitter and glue." They laughed. Of course they did. That was our dynamic. Lindsay was the successful one. The corporate girl in heels and tailored blazers who worked for some big-name brand in downtown Chicago. She never let us forget she worked on the 33rd floor. As if altitude translated to superiority. Meanwhile, I was the artsy one. The one who painted her own shoes in middle school. The one who didn't go to a real college. The one who always had projects but never paychecks. Until now. I had spent months perfecting my handmade jewelry. Not just random beads on string either. I researched crystals. Learned wire wrapping. Took a metalworking course online. My designs were getting noticed. Slowly but surely, my sales were growing. But the more successful I became, the harder Lindsay rolled her eyes. Thanksgiving dinner that year was when she really went in. We were all gathered at our parents' house. Turkey on the table. Wine flowing. And Lindsay, freshly promoted to brand manager, or something equally vague and impressive sounding, decided it was time for a little show and tell. "I brought gifts," she announced. "For the family." She pulled out a sleek black bag with the logo of the company she worked for. Inside were expensive soaps, creams, and a designer candle that cost more than my weekly groceries. "These are from the winter line. Not even in stores yet," she said proudly, handing them out like she was Oprah. "We're targeting luxury buyers. You know, people who actually spend money." Her eyes flicked toward me. I smiled and said nothing. But my jaw clenched so hard I thought I might chip a molar. Then Mom, trying to be polite, said, "Rachel brought some of her pieces, too. Maybe you'd like to see them, Lynn." That's when it happened. Lindsay laughed. Actually laughed. Right there, in front of everyone. "Oh, please. I think I saw something similar in a vending machine once. No offense, Ratch. I'm sure someone out there likes them. Maybe on Planet Etsy." I wish I could say I stood up and delivered a perfect, cutting monologue. But I didn't. I just sat there, feeling 14 again. Like the weird kid who made origami animals in the back of math class while Lindsay collected honor cords and varsity letters. I left early that night. Packed my stuff, told Mom I wasn't feeling well, and drove home in silence. But something had shifted. The next morning, I woke up with a fire I hadn't felt in years. Her words had humiliated me. But they'd also done something else. They'd lit a fuse. I stopped thinking of my Etsy shop as a side hustle. It was time to go all in. Over the next 6 months, I rebranded. I invested in professional product photography. I ran targeted social media ads. I started shipping worldwide. Influencers began tagging me. My sales tripled. I worked late into the night. Sometimes with swollen fingers and aching wrists. But I kept going. Every time I felt like quitting, I heard her voice in my head. Planet Etsy. Glitter and glue. It became my fuel. And then, one ordinary Tuesday, a message popped into my inbox. It was from a woman named Kelsey. She was a buyer for a boutique cosmetic company and wanted to collaborate on a limited jewelry line for their winter collection. She said she'd been following my shop for a while. "We're pivoting toward artisan partnerships," she explained. "We want our winter campaign to feature female-owned small businesses. My heart stopped when I saw the company name. It was Lindsay's company. Her 33rd floor castle. Her pride and joy. I didn't respond right away. I just sat there in stunned silence. Then I started to smile. Not just with my mouth, but with my whole soul. This wasn't just a win. This was an opportunity. And I wasn't about to waste it. I didn't tell anyone about the email. Not my mom. Not my friends. Definitely not Lindsay. I needed time to think. To plan. The buyer, Kelsey, had sent a follow-up. She said they were looking for fresh, handcrafted accessories to include in gift sets and promotional campaigns for their winter line. She even suggested a Zoom call to talk vision. So we scheduled it. And 2 days later, I sat at my kitchen table in a carefully curated outfit, just the right mix of artistic and professional. My jewelry framed my face. My lighting was perfect. My background was clean, stylish, on brand. As soon as the screen flickered to life, Kelsey appeared, smiling wide. She was young, probably around my age, but clearly sharp. The type who could spot a trend 3 seasons before it hit shelves. "Rachel, it's so great to meet you," she said. "Your work is absolutely stunning. I'm obsessed with the hammered copper cuffs." I smiled, thanked her, and listened intently as she outlined the proposal. They wanted 5 exclusive designs. Small batch, high quality, with an earthy, luxury feel. Their winter campaign theme was reclaimed beauty, and they wanted stories behind the pieces, something emotional to connect with the buyers. I nodded slowly. "You mentioned this is for a winter product line. Who's managing the campaign on your side?" "Oh, you'll be working closely with our brand manager, Lindsay Caldwell." There it was. The confirmation. I kept my expression perfectly neutral. Kelsey didn't notice the pause. She continued, "She's got a strong vision, but I think you'll complement each other. She's been asking for something more human and organic to contrast the polished look we usually have." Oh, the irony. We wrapped up the call, and Kelsey promised to send over the contract. But before I logged off, she said, "By the way, we've actually been reviewing your Instagram and Etsy traffic. Our VP noticed your numbers last week. You've built something really special." She said it like it was a compliment. And it was. But to me, it felt like the first domino tipping. I signed the contract that night. They offered a very generous licensing fee. They also offered a clause that made me pause, a future option for equity partnership. I read it twice, then smiled. Now I had a foot in the door. And a plan forming fast. A week later, I walked into the company's office building. Yes, the very same one where Lindsay worked. I had been invited for an in-person strategy meeting. Kelsey insisted. I think she wanted the team to meet the face behind the artistry. The receptionist greeted me warmly and handed me a visitor badge. As I waited for the elevator, I glanced at the directory. Floor 33, Brand Strategy. Of course. The elevator opened, and I stepped into a sleek lobby with glass walls, polished floors, and people walking around in outfits worth more than my car. I looked confident. I felt confident. But inside, my heart was doing gymnastics. Kelsey waved me in. She introduced me to several executives, all of whom seemed genuinely excited. They asked questions. Listened. Took notes as I explained my materials, inspirations, and brand values. And then the door opened. Lindsay walked in, holding a tablet and a coffee she didn't even look at before placing it on the table. She was halfway through a sentence when she finally glanced up and saw me. She froze. "Rachel," she said slowly, like she thought maybe her brain had short-circuited. I smiled. "Hi, Lindsay. Long time." The room went silent for a beat. Kelsey, oblivious to the tension, clapped her hands. "Great, now that you're both here, let's get started." And just like that, I was seated across from my sister, pitching a collaborative collection to her team. She blinked through the whole presentation. Didn't say a word. Just stared, like she was trying to decide if this was real or a very elaborate prank. I pulled out my mock-ups. Samples. Mood boards. Her boss loved them. "This is exactly what we're going for," he said. "It's fresh but grounded. Thoughtful, but wearable. Rachel, you really nailed it." Lindsay's face was unreadable. Except for her hands. They were clutched tightly in her lap. When the meeting ended, she stood up quickly and followed me into the hallway. "Rachel," she said under her breath. "What the hell are you doing here?" I turned, all smiles. "Oh, didn't you hear? I'm collaborating with your company. They loved my work. Guess I'm not just Planet Etsy anymore." Her jaw tightened. "You should have told me," she snapped. "Why?" I asked, tilting my head. "So you could warn them? Laugh behind my back again?" I figured I'd let my work speak for itself. She didn't answer. But I wasn't done. As I walked toward the elevator, I looked back over my shoulder and said, "By the way, you were right. I am building something real. Something big. Hope you're ready for what comes next." Because what she didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that I had already started negotiations. Not just to collaborate, but to acquire. It all started with one quiet line in the contract. Right of first offer in the event of divestment. That tiny clause, overlooked by almost everyone in corporate deals, became my golden ticket. I didn't just sign a collaboration agreement, I signed a door wide open. After the meeting, I went home and called my attorney. Yes, I had one now. A good one. She reviewed the contract again, smiled, and said, "If they ever sell, they have to come to you first. And with the way these companies are merging left and right, it's only a matter of time." It didn't take long. 2 months into the collaboration, the company began feeling pressure. Sales were good. Really good. But upper management had grown greedy. They wanted more reach, more exclusivity, more content. I gave them exactly what they asked for. My pieces sold out 3 times in a row. Influencers were tagging them daily. Customers were demanding more Rachel originals. The higher-ups noticed, and so did their competitors. Behind the scenes, I started doing my homework. I found out the company Lindsay worked for, this glamorous skincare empire, was part of a larger umbrella group. And that group was struggling. Bleeding cash from a failed fragrance line overseas. Rumors of liquidation spread fast. That's when I made my move. I called in a favor from a friend in private equity. Someone who had helped me reinvest my Etsy profits over the years. Someone who now had connections in all the right places. Within weeks, we had an offer on the table. A clean buyout of the brand division, including their creative assets, retail relationships, and most importantly, the contract with yours truly. I bought them. Quietly. Efficiently. Legally. With the kind of precision you never see coming until it's too late. And that's when I called for a meeting. The boardroom was full. Everyone looked tense. They knew a transition was happening. What they didn't know, what Lindsay especially didn't know, was who had signed the papers. I walked in, wearing the same necklace she once called craft fair garbage. She was seated at the far end of the table, flipping through a document with furrowed brows. Her eyes darted up as I entered. "Oh, no," she whispered, the color draining from her face. I smiled and took the head seat. "Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Caldwell. I'm the new owner of this division. Effective immediately." The room erupted into confused murmurs. Except for Lindsay. She just stared. I continued, calm and controlled. This company has built a strong brand. But in recent years, it's lost touch with the very people who made it successful. Artists, creatives, real people with real stories. We're going to fix that. And we're going to lead with authenticity. Then I turned directly to her. Some staffing changes will take place. But not immediately. Her jaw clenched. Of course, I added, everyone is welcome to reapply for their current role during the transition. We're reevaluating talent across the board. Based on results. Not resumes. It was a surgical strike. And she knew it. The rest of the meeting blurred past her, but I saw the moment it hit, when she realized that every time she mocked me, minimized me, dismissed me, it had pushed me further. Made me sharper. Hungrier. She stood up, abruptly. I need a break, she said, already halfway out the door. I let her go. Later that afternoon, I found her in the hallway, pacing near the elevators. She turned as I approached, furious. You bought my company. I shrugged. Technically, I bought part of it. The part you work for. You planned this. Only the part where I succeed despite you. She looked like she wanted to scream, cry, and throw her coffee all at once. I was just joking about your Etsy shop, she muttered. It was never that serious. I stepped closer. Maybe to you. But to me? It was everything. It was my start. My dream. And now, it's my empire. Her eyes dropped to the floor. She couldn't look at me anymore. And by the way, I said, leaning in, you were right. I'm not Jeff Bezos. I'm something scarier. I'm the little sister you underestimated for too long. I turned and walked away, heels clicking against the marble floor. I didn't look back. That night, I sat in my home office, larger now, overlooking the city skyline. I opened my laptop and scrolled through the Etsy homepage. My shop was still there, still running. Not because I needed it anymore, but because it reminded me where I came from. I clicked on one of my earliest listings. A wire-wrapped pendant with uneven loops and a crooked clasp. And I smiled. Because that crooked little piece had built everything. And no one, especially Lindsay, would ever laugh at it again.